Good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. Welcome back. My name is Krista, if you are new here. And we are in the kitchen again today. Well, actually, right this second, I'm in my living room in the recliner with cats on my lap with the fireplace on. And it's beautiful and relaxing, and my Christmas tree is in front of me. And it's amazing. So, anyway, I am doing this voiceover from the comfort of my chair instead of in my dining room where I'm usually at. So it's been a couple weeks since I have gotten a video up. The one I'm bringing to you today is actually a few weeks old, and it is once again soup, because apparently I am the soup queen this year, which I will gladly take that crown. So the first one I'm going to bring you is a delicious curried roasted butternut squash soup. And you will see right now that I am actually peeling the skin from the roasted butternut. And so the easiest way to prepare this is to actually just cut your butternut in half, take the seeds out, put some olive oil and sea salt on it, and throw it in the oven at like 400 degrees until you can pierce that flesh with a fork. And it's done, basically. I mean, you know it's done because it's going to be soft like a, baked sweet potato or baked potato, something like that. And when you let it cool, that hard butternut flesh is just going to peel right off. And then you've got these beautiful hunks of roasted butternut squash that are ready to use. So I actually recommend, if you use butternut squash a lot, that you could do a few at a time and then freeze the extra. You can also can butternut squash. I have plenty of butternut squash on my shelves that I actually need to use, and my goal will be to use it during the pantry challenge this year, but I wanted to use the fresh that I had left over from this year's harvest so that I could make just this rich aromatic soup. And I am starting out with some olive oil in a pan. And most recipes call for shallots. I actually used onion and garlic. And then you're going to do I used a red curry paste and about 1.5 tablespoons. And then 6 cups of butternut squash, which is 1 small. And you're just going to saute those onions and garlic until they're very aromatic. Add that curry powder to it, and then even some cinnamon. I put in some cinnamon, some more salt, and then get that squash mashed up in there. And then once you do that, well, here I am adding the cinnamon. You are going to add 2 cups of broth and 1 can of coconut milk and 1 to 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. And then you can add some chili garlic paste on top of that, which I think I went, I don't think I added that. I think I just did, because instead of using curry powder like most recipes call for, I used the red Thai curry paste, which already had some of that in there. This soup, I am not honestly a huge fan of like squash soup or pumpkin soup. I don't know if it's a texture thing for me. It's just, I'm not a huge fan, but this one was really, really good, which is why I'm sharing it. I've made this type of thing before, but this one just absolutely, I don't know. It was great. You hit it with the immersion blender, so maybe I got my texture better this time. But it had just enough of that curry flavor. Those warm spices mixed with the onion and the garlic and the roasting of that butternut squash. It was so, so good. So I am definitely going to do this one again. This will probably be my go-to curry butternut soup recipe now, because I have made, like I said, I've made others, but this one was really, really good. So this is probably the only one I will be making in the future. So, and it's just beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful soup. and it freezes really well, and you can even can it if you want. I use chicken broth, so I would prefer to freeze it because I don't want to have to do the longer canning time since I use chicken broth. The second recipe that I am bringing you is actually one I saw on YouTube, and it was a short, and it was garlic Parmesan cracked chicken soup. Well, they didn't share the exact recipe with you. They gave you just enough information to kind of know how to make it. And so I did some research on it, and through various, I hope y'all can't hear that, my washing machine is suddenly so loud when it does the spin cycle, so I can hear it in the background. Hopefully you cannot. But I did some research on various recipes and put together something very similar to what he said in the video, but I could tell in the video, and I can't find the original video anymore. I had jotted down a couple notes when I saw it, and I thought I could go back into my library and get it, but I must have watched it on a different device, or I wasn't signed in or something, because I can't find it. But anyway, so the recipe that I'm using has 4 slices of bacon, and we all know that I am going to use, and I think I have voice in this one, but for some reason this video is not doing sound, so hopefully I can fix that. I'm going to go ahead and do this voiceover, and if when I put it in the sound comes back, we'll get rid of it. But anyway, I don't use bacon because I do want to be able to freeze leftovers. So I don't like the way the bacon gets soft in soups when you freeze it. So I just use reserved bacon grease from where I've cooked bacon before, and don't use actual bacon, which also saves me time. So I'm doing bacon grease and butter and 1 small onion. Now I'm giving you the recipe that I put together based on other recipes, but in this video I am actually doubling it. So bear with me on that. Go to the description box and get the recipe, but as you're watching, it's going to be more because I am doubling it. So 1 small onion, 3 cloves of garlic, and then once you've got all those aromatics done, you want to chop it pretty fine for this. I mean, because you're not going to use an immersion blender on this. Now I had pre-done some chicken, but you could use rotisserie chicken. You could use baked chicken. You could saute up some chicken breasts really quick, or some chicken thighs. I had a small roasted whole chicken, and then I used the bones to make bone broth, because normally I have like just a plethora of cans of bone broth, but I have actually run out, and I have not taken the time to make huge batches of broth to can. So I've just kind of been making like 1 crock pot a week, which typically gives me about 4 quarts of bone broth, and just using it through the week. So that's kind of been one of my staple items that I've had to do this fall, is just make 1 to 2 batches. Like I know sometimes, depending on what I make, I'm going to need beef broth, and I'll make a batch of beef broth and a batch of chicken broth. So I have just kind of been making that on a week-to-week basis, because I use broth in a lot of recipes. So I am deboning this chicken now, and I'm using broth that I had from another chicken that I had done, and then I will make broth out of this chicken to use for the next week, if that makes sense. So it's like this I'm constantly cooking like 1 chicken a week. So if you think about it, you need 52 chickens a year if you're going to do that. And then that gives you multiple meals off of that 1 chicken, because you can divide the meat up between like 2 recipes, especially if you're making like a soup or stew or something like that, or adding another protein in there. And then you use the bones to make the broth for the next week's meals. So that is actually a rough estimate of what we go on when we are ordering our chickens for the year is that we want at least 52 chickens a year in our freezer, but I like to have more because sometimes we're entertaining or I'm making big batches for other projects or other people. And so we need extra. So you figure then 60 chickens per year for our household to meet our household needs. But not every chicken makes it. So you actually have to order more chickens than that. So we traditionally have done 4 batches of chicken because we don't want to do it. Like, we just don't have the room or the time to do 100 at a time. So we typically aim for 25 to 30 chickens and 4 times a year. We are probably going to cut that back because we don't lose that many chickens and we're not selling chicken anymore. I don't think we're going to be selling chicken anymore. So this year we did not do a fall batch of chicken. And it was a really nice relief, honestly, because our falls get so busy to not have to plan chicken butchering in that time frame. So we may cut our chickens back to 2 batches of 30 again next year, although I feel like I'm running really low on chicken already. When I go downstairs, I don't know if I'm going to have enough to get us through. I probably have enough to get us through like January, February, but we are out of breasts, so I'm going to have to buy chicken breasts, but we had sold the majority of our breasts. So that was the problem, and then we didn't do our fall batch, which would have given us, another 40 to 60 chickens worth of breasts. So if we don't sell, then we could just do the 60 chickens. I would want a few more than that. So we would probably do 72 batches of 35 because you are going to lose, a couple chicks. I don't think we've ever had a batch where we didn't lose at least one. We've had batches where we've lost quite a few. You just never know. So that is the plan for next year, is that we are only going to do chickens in the spring and get a year's worth of food. So if you were planning your family's chicken purchase, and or you were going to buy it in bulk from a store, that might be something to consider, is how often do you use a chicken and how economical is it to do it in that fashion versus going to the store and buying a $15 tray of 6 breasts, which, yes, that could give you, if you're a family of 4 to 5 like we are, that's 2 meals a week in chicken. But then you don't have the added benefit of making broth because there's no bones in it. Is it more economical to buy a whole chicken 1 time a week and make 2 meals off of that if you use both the dark meat and the light meat, and then have the added benefit of making your own chicken broth, so then you're not purchasing broth for recipes as well? And a whole chicken at the store, they have gotten expensive. Some of the bigger ones that I've seen, like the Purdue organic chickens or whatever, are about $15 a chicken. But you can still get some of the like store brand chickens or regular non-organic chickens for around $8 to $9. And so $8 to $9 for 2 meals worth of meat plus 4 quarts of broth in, a small crock pot, but you could get more if you did it in the roaster oven with the same amount of bones, or you can do it twice. You can do broth up to 2 times with the same amount of bones. So it's definitely more economical either way you go, but that will help you figure out how many chickens you need. So if you hit a sale where whole chickens, or the bags of chicken parts where it's the whole chicken but it's cut up, you could use that too. I mean, it doesn't have to be in its whole form to make broth out of the bones. But if you hit a really good sale where you can get basically a whole chicken for $5 or $4, or you want to go to Costco and get the rotisserie chickens where it's already done for you because it's a loss leader for $4 or $5, go ahead and get 10 of them and put it in the freezer. You can go ahead and debone the meat and put the bones in the freezer separately to make broth later. And then you know that every 2 to 3 months you're going to have to go back and get 10 more or whatever. There's a lot of ways that you can do this and save money. And this was not my intention, was to do a chicken lecture today. However, I don't know about you guys, but with the cost of groceries right now and trying to do everything as much as homemade as possible, these are constant things that I have to think about, especially when meal planning. So back to this recipe. After that crazy lecture, our chicken is deboned. We are going to go back to this pot that we now have the onions and the garlic and the butter and the bacon grease sauteed in, and we are going to add a packet of dry ranch mix. Can you make homemade? Absolutely, and that is on my list to do because I ran out. Fortunately, Foodland had them on sale, and I was like, you know what? I am going to grab a packet of ranch mix for today. So that is what I did. So you are going to add a packet of dry ranch mix and stir that around and get those flavors combined and cooking. And then let's see what I do next, because I don't remember. It's been a couple weeks. And we're putting the chicken in there. And that's what I thought I would do, because you want to get all of those seasonings and all of that oil and stuff coating that meat to help flavor that meat before you dilute it with the broth. Because if you put the broth in, then the chicken's just going to sit in the diluted mixture. And so I like cooking this for like a minute, stirring it together in the hot oils and stuff to really get those flavors onto that chicken. And then you are going to add your 4 to 6 cans or 4 to 6 cups of broth. And if I don't remember if I had it all in broth. If you don't have enough, like if all you have is a quart box of broth, then you could add 2 cups of water. That's okay. You can dilute your broth if you don't quite have enough, or if you don't want to open 2 boxes of broth or 2 jars of broth or whatever, do 1 and add 2 cups of water, because each quart's like 4 cups. Because I did a double batch, I probably did 3 quarts, which would make sense. I mean, because it would be 3 full quarts. So then you are going to add your 8 ounces of cream cheese, which I'm doing a double batch, so obviously I added 2. And you're going to heat that up. The one thing I don't like about cream cheese and sour cream when you're making creamed soups is you heat it up and it's hard to get it like perfectly smooth unless you're using an immersion blender. But this recipe, you're not going to use an immersion blender because you don't want to like emulsify the chicken. That would be disgusting. So you just use a whisk and do it the best you can as you reheat it and serve it. You're not going to notice any of those little small clumps, but you can also heat the cheese up separately, pull out some of that broth and whisk it in, and that helps. I didn't do that because I was doing a million other things this day while I was cooking the soup, so I just put it on the stove and let it heat up. You are also going to add 1 cup of fresh grated Parmesan. I went to the deli and got a little bag of the already grated Parmesan, not in the can, but from the deli. And it was a little bit more than 2 cups in the bag, but it was like 2 1/4 cups or whatever. So I just went ahead and added that all in there. You're also going to want to add 1 cup of shredded cheddar. It's preferable to always shred your own cheese. I have not been doing that lately just because time has been a factor and shredded cheese has been on sale. I do prefer some of the like cheddar melts cheese better than some of the other brands, because I feel like there's less of that cellulose on it. It doesn't feel like it has a dry coating. It actually will stick together and it melts really nice. So I feel like there's less of that cellulose coating on it. I could be totally wrong, and but it feels like it to me. So I feel a little bit better about using that. Once you heat this up and get all that cheese like melting together and all those flavors blended together, you're going to come back in and make sure you season with salt and pepper. Add a little bit of heavy cream, like a quarter of a cup. So for me, it was about a half a cup. And then 3 cups of spinach, which I had a large container of spinach. And so I just dumped it all in there. I didn't measure it. It was probably 6 to 8 cups of spinach. I don't know. I don't care. Spinach is amazing. You can't have too much spinach. And you're just going to make sure that about 5 minutes that spinach wilts down. And you're good to go. Serve it hot. Serve it fresh. This was so, so good. I don't know that I like it. I definitely do not like it better than my white chicken chili. That is still my number one. But it is a little bit of a nice change. And since I have a lot of spinach in my garden as well, it's a nice recipe that goes with that. So I hope you enjoyed these 2 additional soup recipes. And I hope I am back to my scheduled program, because I am going to be back in the kitchen for the next 2 weeks now that Christmas programs, dance programs, parades, all that has calmed down. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.